at. Okay, so if it's a side angle side scenario, then we have this. How do you know it's a side angle side? So let's say you were sleeping yesterday while I was teaching. That never happens in my class, right? So let's say you know this side length here, so you put a check mark there, and you know this side length here, and you happen to know that angle that is in between these two sides. That's called an SAS, okay? Then you would use this. You know it's cosine law, first of all, and out of these two options, you have to use this one, okay? If it's side, 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 that one is the easiest one to determine, right? You know all three sides, okay? And again, I would like you to highlight on your study sheet that, right, the angle is here and the side across from it is over there. So let's just try this one here for one moment. So if you had a triangle like this, okay, and instead of ABC, I'm going to call this X, Y, and Z, okay? And so let's say you know this one, you know that angle there and this side. So you know it's SAS, right? The only option you have is to find this side here, which is lowercase x. It's across from that. Okay, so how would you write this out following this pattern? That's the side you want to find, which in this particular case is x. So you write down x squared is equal to the other two sides squared. See, B and C, it represents the other two. So across from this you have y, across from angle Z you have side Z. So if this is the one you want to find, then the other two sides are going to be added and squared like that. And then you go minus 2 times Z, right, this first number, times the second number, times the only angle you know, in this case, which is capital X, right? So this is just an exercise to get you to see the pattern, right? So side X never shows up here at all, the side you're interested in. You just got to make sure they're opposite each other, right? If you want to find side X, you better use angle X. Okay? This is just on a side just to repeat and review what we did on Monday. So now let's go back to page 276. We solved this one. We did solve this one as well. And I would like to do one more today before I do the finding angle. So let's go to page 277. That one there. And I know you're a little bit like, you're still not, it's the last period of the day and whatever, but would you be able to solve this one right now? Would you be able to do that? So I want you have your notes, 0 risk, no risk whatsoever. Maybe having to erase once I go over it. Can you do this right now? I will go over it, trust me. So I'm not even going to give you the answer. But would you be able to solve for side Y here on your own right now? So go ahead and give that a try. And if you're done, you can do the pond question down there as well. So we're going to do this one and the one underneath it. And I will do mine. We're all on the same page, okay? So if you want that side, oh wait, step back. How do I know it's cosine law? How would I know, right? So I look, I'm like, I don't have a pair, right? I don't have an angle and a side. Can't use sine law. The other way is to know that this is there, and I have the angle in between them. That is called SAS. You will have that formula on your study sheet, right? Yes, I will, Mr. Dirksen, okay. And then I know I have to use this formula. So y squared, whatever letter is here, you square it. Then you take one of the sides, take the other side, minus 2 times the first one times the second one. If you can color code this formula, it's going to be so much better, because then even 3 months from now, you know where to put what, right? So you can give it a highlighter here, right? You can say this one is here and here, right? See, I didn't do highlighting in high school, so now I'm going overboard, right? This one is there and is there, right? So if you can color code it, you just got to be really into highlighting, right? This angle right there is right there. And then next time you look at it, you're like, okay, I see the pattern, right? Next, you type this in one shot, but make sure this, I want you to understand what's happening. If you want to drop this square, you need to square root the other side. And so when you do that, you get 73.0531 that keeps going. You can just do that. Press the square root button. You get 8.55 centimeters rounded, which I saw pretty much across the board, which is great. So first of all, I checked, is this a cosine law scenario? Yes. Is it SAS or is it SSS? It's SAS, of course, because I only know two sides, right? And so I want you to start thinking, could it be sine law, right? Next, the pond question, you want to know how wide or how long the pond is. I'm going to call that x in this case. You can call it lowercase c, right? But you know that it's a side, another side, and the angle in between. So this is SAS, right? Cosine law, right? Cole's law. Some students say that. Anyway, so if I want to find that side, I square it, and then I take 152 squared plus 152 squared minus 2 times 152 times 152 times cosine of 80. Next line is x is equal to square root. So you just type all of this in. I don't have that on my key. Maybe my other key. There it is. This one has a bigger number. So it's 38,184.065, and that keeps going, right? And so next you take the square root of that, you get 195.41. Here is one thing I want you to remember, because some students forget to square root. It doesn't make sense to have a side length that's 38,000, and then you look at your triangle and everything is like 150, right? It doesn't make sense. So it should be like, does this answer make sense? In this case, it does. It's within range, right? So you shouldn't state this as your final answer, right? That's all I'm trying to say. Make sure you know that there's an extra step, which is square rooting. All right, next page. I will skip this one for now. Maybe never come back to it. I don't know. Depends on time. But I think you get it by now. So this is going to be somewhat new. This is where we're going to use that second version of the formula. So make sure you highlight this. Okay, how to solve for angles. And the only case where that is possible is if it's side, 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 right? So you have a triangle where you know all three sides, you have a value for every side. Okay. So I'm gonna get you started on that. So pay close attention here. I'm just gonna go back and see like, okay, SSS, it kind of looks like this. It has to start with cosine of the angle you want to find. You can't just put the angle there. Okay. So in this case, it says calculate the measure or the side of angle P. Angle P is right up there. That's the question mark right now. You recognize that this is side, 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 right? And so I have to use cosine law. So I'm going to do that right here. I'm going to zoom into that side a little bit. So I start like this. Cosine of angle P. And the first thing you do, folks, the first thing you do is, what letter is here? P, right? You're going to go at the end of this line and make sure you put minus P squared. The side across from angle P has to show up first. Let's label them on our diagram. Let's do that quick. This is going to be R, and this is going to be lowercase q. So RQ, just lowercase across the angle. And so naturally, the only two sides left would be R squared plus Q squared. And then underneath, you go 2 times R times Q. P does not show up anymore. It only shows up once right here. If you have a highlighter, I would strongly recommend you highlight, right, the fact that the angle has the side opposite to it. Okay. So now that we've established this, which I will not ask you to do on a test, you don't have to use letters anymore, but we just want to have the initial setup so that we know how to deal with it. So cosine of angle P, and now you just follow your formula. R is 21.6, right? So 21.6 squared plus Q is 16.9 minus 31.2 squared. Underneath, it's just 2 times the first one here times the second one right next to it. Just making sure you never ever use that last one here in the denominator, okay? And now watch this. I go cosine of P is equal to, we're going to figure out what the numerator is, put it down. Then we're going to find out what the denominator is, put it down here. So go ahead and do that. Use your calculator. Okay, so 21.6 squared plus 16.9 squared minus 31.2 squared. And something peculiar will happen here. I did that on purpose. If you hit equals, you get a negative. Make sure you try that. You should see that negative pop out, right? That's very important here. It's not just coincidence. Okay? So you write that down. Negative 22127. All decimals. Just write the whole thing down. Then we do the denominator. 2 times 21.6 times 16.9. It's fun once you do these, right? Like, you know what to do, you know the pattern. 730.08. Okay. Now watch this. So now I will divide these two. I don't want you to do that all in one shot up here. So do them separately, and then next to it, do you remember what happens if you go negative divided by a positive? It's going to be negative. I don't know if you remember that. So it's going to be negative. Some of your calculators are able to type in negative, but I'm just going to go 221.27 divided by 730.08. So I'm dividing these, and you get that value. But I already put the negative down with me. Do not drop the negative. So negative 30, 30, and that keeps going. And what happens? What do you need to do to find an angle in trig? You got to use the inverse, right? Inverse. So this is your final step. Angle P is going to be cosine inverse, right, of this negative 30, 30, dot, dot, dot. But look how I do it on my calculator. Some of you have this button, okay? Some of you have this negative button, or you have a plus/minus button, one of those. You have to turn it into a negative. So I'm going to go, this is my trick for it. I'm going to go times -1, and then I turn mine into a negative. But some of you just have a button where you can just turn it negative. And then you go shift cosine to call inverse, right? And hit equal. And you should get 107.64, and this is in degrees. So angle P is 107.64 degrees. What kind of an angle is this? It's bigger than 90. What do we call that? Obtuse angle. It's greater than 90. 90 degrees. And you know how you could have known this? I will make an arrow go all the way to that negative there. Whenever you have a negative, you know your angle is going to be greater than 90. It could be just by a little bit. It could be 90.5. It's obtuse. Okay. So the negative, don't drop it. Don't get rid of it. Keep it with you throughout the whole thing. It's only a cosine law thing. So keep that in mind. Now, let's do another one. Let's cut it right here. We're done with that. We found angle P here. B is asking us to solve for angle Q. Angle Q is right there. Question though, do I have a pair now? Could I use sine law if I wanted to now? Because, right, I technically have this angle now, so you do have a pair. You could switch over to sine law if you wanted to, but I'm going to stick with cosine law right now. So watch this. I'm going to write it out one more time. Cosine of angle Q, use a capital. You do the line. What's the first one you're going to write down? Minus Q squared. And the other two sides would be P and R, right? P and R are left. So you take those, square them, make sure they're squared. I have a lot of students forgetting that, or somehow it doesn't even make it to the formula. And it's going to be completely wrong. You're going to be frustrated. So it's 2 times P times R, right? PR shows up again. And let's go through the motions here as well. Cosine of Q. P is 31.2 squared plus R is 21.6 squared minus 16.9 squared, right? Over 2 times P times R. I'm going to add another line so to make sure I get this right. So go ahead and type in the top and the bottom separately, see what you get. I'm going to zoom in a little bit to that. Try that out. Give your calculator a try. So the top, it's not negative. Watch my answer. It's not negative. So don't worry about it this way. In this case, 1,154,39. Then I do my denominator. 1347.84. And if it's positive, your angle will be acute, meaning less than 90, guaranteed. Okay? I would say obtuse angles are rare, but they do show up, and they will probably show up on a test. Okay? So this equals to, your answer when you divide these two better start with 0. If it doesn't, you made a mistake. You can call me, but I will tell you I can't help you or check your work. Right? So divide them, and you get this: 856, and that keeps going. I don't have room, so I'm gonna use all decimals. You don't have to write them all down. This is telling me that you are using all of them. So angle Q is cosine inverse of 0.856 dot 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 angle Q. I'm leaving this on my screen. I don't have to worry about the negative. I'm just gonna go shift cosine and then hit equals, and I get 31.08 degrees. And that is my answer. By the way, I could now find that third angle easily, right? 180 minus, right? I just subtract. I found 2 angles out of the 3. So if you wanted that third one, you just subtract these 2 from it, and you're good to go. And you know, trial and error is one way of learning, right? You just give it a try. If you run into issues, we can easily solve that. But I can only help you if you try it, right? So go to the next page, 279. What does it say there? Question 4. So just solve each triangle. It means, right? Calculate all angles and all sides. That's how you do that. Okay? All angles, all sides. Do you remember, did I talk about which one should you start with? Which angle should you start with if you have a choice? Did I talk about that? It's always the largest angle. So start with, with the largest angle, right? If you have a choice, start with the largest angle. And where is the largest angle going to be located? Which angle is it in this case? Which angle is it in this? It's across the 90-degree on the right triangle. The hypotenuse, so we're not dealing with right triangles. You look at the longest side. 12.3 is the longest, right? So the angle across from it is going to be the largest. So start by finding x and then find the rest. Okay? So go ahead and do that. Do it with this one and do it with this one. And I will come and check up on you, making sure you're okay. Look out for the negatives. Right. So take the time, okay? Take the time. Get it started. So I'm going to do the first one with you. I know a lot of you have this, so you're just going to watch me, right? Go through the motions here. But first of all, we determined this is an SSS scenario. So you go to your study sheet and you're like, okay, where was that formula again, right? We're looking, okay, it looks like this. So cosine of the angle I want is what I started with, right? So cosine of x, whatever you do, make sure that that side opposite to the angle you want is written down first, and you square it. And there's a minus in front of it, right? Very important. Then you take the other two, 5.1 squared, in no particular order, I don't care. Just take those two, add them up. Underneath, you go, right, times the first one, take that second one, the third side never shows up again. I'm going to do this right next to it. Let me just go to that page because I don't want to go through the calculator stuff. So you get, which is negative 58.04, and you get 83.64. Very well done. Cos of x. If I divide this, I get negative 0.6939 dot. The last step is to say cosine inverse, right? Make sure you have that. If you want to have a full example on your study sheet, right, go for it. So angle x is 133.94. That is your angle. So if you have a choice, start with the largest angle first, which is this one. We knew it was going to be bigger than 90 as soon as you had that negative. Watch now though. This is a blast from the past. This is sine law. I'm going to switch over to sine law. You now have a pair. I will make note of that. Right? I will use sine law. Not cosine law. Some of you did. No problem. Not a big deal at all. So now my pair is sine of 133.94 over 12.3. So that's my pair. And now you need to figure out which is the other angle you want because you have a choice. I'm going to figure out what y is. And 8.2 is across from it, right? So I will go sine of y is what I'm trying to find. So I cross multiply and divide. So sine of y is 8.2 times sine of 133.94 over 12.3. I'm going to say that angle y is sine inverse of, if I plug all of this in, I get 0.4800 dot. And so angle y is 28.69 degrees. And it might be a little bit different. If you use cosine law, that's okay. Sometimes it is a little bit different. I have two angles. I can find the third one, no problem, which is z. Angle z, just show the work like this. 180 minus 133.94 minus 28.69. It just saves you a lot of time to just do this instead of using sine law or cosine law again. And so you get 17 degrees and 37, right? 1737 as your third angle. So I've used sine law and cosine law mixed, but this is what I need you to understand, okay? You can only start with one of them. It's not like Mr. Durkin started with sine law, somebody else started with cosine law. The start is exactly the same for us all, okay? We need to figure out what scenario is it. Do I have a pair? No pair? Let's check this out. Is it SAS or is it SSS? It's probably cosine law, right? So you need to constantly ask yourself that. I will give you the answers to this one here. Angle R is 107.16. Angle S, 30.64. angle T is 42.20. So write these down so you know you're doing this right. Did I steal someone's pencil? This isn't mine. Sorry. If I took your pencil while I walked around, let me know. Right, so now you can keep working on this, no problem. But if you want to be prepared for tomorrow, you grab that work booklet that I have, that skinnier work booklet. You go right down the middle, page 9. Page 9. See you, Nicola. Page. I'm erasing some stuff so I don't give it away. Because I've written on this. You go to page 9 while I'm doing this, while I'm cleaning it up. Go to page 9, and if you don't have this, then maybe just look up for now. Look up on the screen. If I give you this triangle, what would you have to start with? This one right here. What kind is it? Side is given, side is given, side is given. S, S, S. Cosine law, right? It could ask you for angle A, B, C. We don't know, but it is what it is. What about question 2 here? SAS, right? Side, side, and the angle is in between. This is important. It's in between those two sides. SAS, you're going to use cosine law, correct? What about question 6 here? What would you use to start with question 6? You can't see it, right? Because it's a little bit far there. Sine law? Sine law? Yes. Because you have a pair. This is a sine law situation. You have to start with sine law. What is the only thing that you could solve at the beginning? Side C, right? That's the only thing you could solve for because you have angle C. So that's the only thing. You remember the hidden pair? Let's say this is A, B, C, like this. If this is 40, and this is, let's say this is 60 here, and you know that this is 24 centimeters, what would you use in that case? In this case right here. No pair, right? At first. But you have two angles. You can easily find that third angle, and then you have a pair. So this is not cosine law, okay? Sometimes students think it is. But whenever you have two angles, it's guaranteed sine law because you have enough to get that pair out of the situation, okay? This page 9, all the answers are at the back. So if you want to practice with this particular one, I would suggest you do it on loose leaf because you're not going to have enough room to solve it, right? Because it's saying to solve each triangle. And it's really good practice for you to get this going, okay? So tomorrow's our quiz. Just make sure your study sheet has everything you need for it, okay? Not that I think I'm preaching to the choir here. I think you're all on top of that. If you want to start your blue sheet already, I would say only use one section. Don't use too much because trig shouldn't be taking up too much, right? Because I told you vehicle finance half. I would just say try to just take up a section for trig. Don't use too much for trig because we're going to use it for other units. What else do I have to say? I would say practice. It will pay off if you're prepared. If especially not knowing which arm am I going to have to use here to start off, and then do whatever you want. You want to go sine law after cosine law, that's up to you. Okay? You can handle 10 minutes, right? Just waiting? Or do you want me to talk more?